The essence of spirituality really is to quiet the mind, to recognize that we are not the mind, to know, to come to realize that we are the witness, the unmoving, the true self, the consciousness that is aware of everything that's happening and that is unmoved, that is just pure love, pure light, pure joy, unmoving, that cannot be perceived by the mind. The mind cannot grasp it. It is beyond mind. And that is so difficult for us to understand because we are trying to do spirituality with our mind. And that's why it doesn't work. And that's why people read and study and try and pick up practices and rituals. And they go for years and they can go their whole lives trying to wake up, trying to become enlightened. And they're doing it with the mind. And within the mind, it is impossible. You have to realize that you are not your mind. Now, to get there, people ask, we need to start somewhere. And the start is always to quiet the mind. And how? How to do that, how to quiet your mind. And that in itself, again, we can't really do, because how can an unsteady mind make itself steady? It cannot. Of course it can't. It's the nature of our mind to roam around, to be busy, to try and figure things out. It doesn't stop. As long as we're alive, our mind is unsteady. And to steady it, to quiet it down, it simply doesn't work. What we have to do is we have to shift our focus of consciousness beyond our mind. So that is a very important key aspect, that it is not that we are quieting our mind, because mind cannot quiet itself. It is the nature of the mind to be busy, to be unsteady, to be loud. There needs to be a recognition that we are not mind. And how to do that is, again, tricky to understand. The mind, it isn't the one that is going to be successful with this. You need to refuse all thoughts. And there is Ramana Maharshi, he said, you refuse all thought except for one thought, which is the thought, I am. And he believed that if you focus on this one thought, I am, you will wake up. Now, once the mind is quiet, things will begin to happen spontaneously, just naturally, on their own, without you having to interfere at all. Now, usually when we start to try and steady the mind, to try and focus our consciousness beyond the mind, to stay out of thoughts, this is extremely difficult. And 99.9% of us will not succeed, and we will battle against these thoughts that are coming, trying to not pick them up. Now, to avoid battling the mind, you should try to live your life as it comes. Just change nothing. There's nowhere you need to go. You don't have to stop working. You don't have to move into the mountains, live in a cave, give up your family. There's nothing you need to change. All you try to do is you live your life as it comes, but you're very alert and you're watchful. You develop mindfulness and you allow everything to happen just as it happens, doing just natural things, the natural way, suffering and being happy and just going with whatever life brings. And you will go through all of it. None of this, what you're doing, is going to stop suffering from coming. As long as you're alive, you're going to suffer. As long as you're alive, you're going to feel pleasure and pain. And that is completely normal. So you live a normal life. You go to work, you get married, you can have children. And what you need to realize is that if you're doing this, if you're living your life and you're working, you're getting married, you're having children, to be happy, to find happiness, then you're not going to succeed. Because true happiness cannot be found in anything that is worldly, in anything that can change, that changes, that comes and goes, that passes away. So all of these worldly things, working, marriage, relationships, children, all of these things, they cannot bring you true happiness. It is in this human existence that there's pleasure and pain, and you cannot have one without the other. They come together. They're one and the same thing. True happiness, it comes from the true self only. That is beyond this earthly world, beyond the mind and its clinging and aversion. It is our true nature. Our true nature is happiness. It is love and joy. It's something that we are. So it doesn't come and go like all the worldly phenomena that we're experiencing with our mind. This true happiness, it is not experienced with the mind. It is not a state that, something that is happening and we call it, this makes me happy. It is not a mindly thing. It is not a judgment call. It is a calm happiness that is our state of being. It is not part of this world. Now, but usually what happens is that we can't really understand that, we can't perceive it. To us, we seem restless. The true self seems restless. When we try and stay out of our thoughts, there's just restlessness still. There's battling with the thoughts. There is confusion. There is almost like a search for it. Am I happy now? Is this it? It seems very restless. But it is not the true self that is restless. It is only its reflection in the mind that appears restless, because the mind is restless. It's like you can compare it with the reflection of the moon on the water. When it is stirred by the wind, it is not clear. It seems restless. But the moon is unchanged. The moon never became restless. It is only the reflection we perceive to be the real thing. In our mind, we can only see the reflection of the moon. We can never phenomenally grasp the real moon, the real self. Only the reflection can be grasped with the mind. And it seems restless, and it is not the real thing. It is seen only through our veil of the world, our veil of the mind, of the ego. And from this metaphor, the wind being the mind, being the ego, our thoughts, our emotions, they make the moon seem restless with the ripples of the water. But the moon is never affected by the water and the wind. Never. It does not change it. The moon is completely detached, unharmed, unmoved, at all times. And it is that recognition that will free us. It's the ideas of movement, of this whole restlessness and pleasure and pain. This is all just in the mind. This is all just like the wind. The self stands beyond the mind, aware but unconcerned, unattached, like the moon, completely unattached, unconcerned by what the water is doing. Movements, restlessness, pleasure and pain, trying to achieve something, getting married, wanting to find happiness, falling in love, going through pains, losing your loved one, starting over, losing again. This whole thing, this is all just worldly. It is all in our mind. It is unfazed. Our true self, like the moon, is completely unfazed. The moon never changed. The moon never moved. All of this happening is simply happening in our mind. And we need to reach our self, our true self. We need to recognize that we are not the mind. So then again, you'll ask, okay, how do I reach the true self? And again, the answer isn't straightforward because you already are the self. You don't have to reach it. You are it right here, right now. Already it. And all you really need to do is you need to leave the mind alone. You need to be alert. You need to be mindful and remain detached. And only once you stop identifying with the mind and its movements, you recognize your true self. And that true self is peaceful, is infinite and unbound by the drama of life. It is completely free.